So we're back. Metaphysics Rantcast. I'm looking here. I wanted to check the time on my phone, and then I noticed that I was in Safari, and I was in this article. It says 19 DJs who wear incredible masks, better than any superhero. And I was in this particular article because I was gonna go on this tangent about how, after DJing in public and so on, and I keep saying DJing in public. This is about events. This is about events like DJ big club events versus radio in the studio. So I shouldn't use the terminology like in the public. It doesn't make any sense really. But I get now why some DJs wear masks, and part of it is just contrarian, kind of like almost theatrics in a lot of cases. Like, for example, the picture here is of a dude, and this article was published March 8th, so this is recent. But the pictures of this dude Marshmallow, who literally I had no clue who he was until literally maybe like 3 months ago, maybe. I think it was because Will Smith or something posted something with the guy, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And then it's like at Marshmallow in the comments or whatever. I'm like, oh god. Anyway, so let's read this. I'm not gonna read. Well, actually, when I first thought about the mask thing, there was one particular artist I was thinking about, Subtract. We're gonna get into the list. So Daft Punk, obviously. Marshmallow. Who the hell is Marshmallow? I don't know where. Dead Mouse, who doesn't always wear the mask. Jaguar Skills. Never really heard of him. Funtcase. This is one of those Funtcase, dubstep. DJs from Mars. Not too familiar with them. Subtract. Yeah. When your name is Subtract, you kind of have to be mysterious, don't you? Couldn't have to be mysterious, don't you? Having worked with the likes of Drake, MIA, and Mark Ronson, Subtract is a pretty big player in the electronic music world, and his collabs with Sampha gained massive critical acclaim. Wanting to let his music do the talking, Subtract wears modern interpretations of native society ceremonial masks designed by Hidden Space at live shows, and it's fair to say they're seriously damn cool too. Go check out Subtract, SBTRKT. He has a boiler room, this is like an early boiler room, and it's a pretty dope set. I don't know, he's probably had many since then, but SBTRKT, Subtract boiler room. Sardonic, Mindset. He's from Dominican Republic, apparently, or at least in the Instagram picture here, his location says Santiago, Dominican Republic. The Bloody Beetroots, forgot about them. Square Pusher, okay. Cassette. He has a mask, but then he also has his face exposed. Dr. Lectrolove. Not really familiar with him. Faced Funks. The electronic world is so vast that it's like DJ Blend, I know him. Previously been named SoundCloud Artist of the Year. DJ Danger. Claptone. Guns for Hire. I'm pretty sure DJ Stingray also wears a mask, but he's just a ski mask, I think. So anyway, all of that to say, these are all artists that wear masks. I also know why, I think in some people, in some instances, the mask is about, it's just a comfort thing, right? Like, you can kind of retreat into this world behind the mask / persona that adds an extra layer of comfort. This is why people like to act wild on Halloween, right? Like, this is part of the reason. Or costume parties. You can sort of become a different person within this mask, and maybe that person is maybe that person you become is the opposite of what you naturally are. So yeah, there's the mask thing. But anyway, the first event was my first event was basically it was a little art cafe. Nobody really showed up, and I think this is the thing too. At the time, I wasn't really savvy enough to know that there's a few things. The level of promotion required is one that has to be a multifaceted kind of approach to a promotion. You can't just rely on flyers, even though you can't not do it, but you have to rely on relying on flyers. You also have to rely. If I was to do it all over, basically, and I know this, you can't do it all over, and there's no point thinking about it, but Facebook ads is probably way more effective than flyers. That's number one. Number two, some people have a. Well, this is what I found when I ended up having an actual, more of a crew of sorts. Some people are better at being the promoters, as such, so to speak. Some people have that kind of a network, so to speak. Some people are just better at that kind of a salesman-y kind of a thing. That kind of a persona. You need, I think this is kind of, there's this theme of like, whatever you naturally are, instead of trying to become, and I'm not talking about being a quieter person and then becoming animated when you DJ or rap or, perform. Maybe you're a performative artist, or you're an actor, and you suddenly become this crazy, like, charismatic actor. Maybe you're a YouTuber and you act a certain way in your YouTube videos, but then in your day-to-day life, you're kind of more laid back and maybe even totally shy and shook and scared or whatever. But I'm talking more of like, what are your strengths? If you're more of a creator, quote unquote creator / creative, but then you know somebody else that's less of a creative, they don't really produce anything, but they're more of they can talk and self-promote and network and all that kind of thing. Assuming that the person's actually cool and actually a good person, you know what I mean? Y'all can bounce ideas off of each other. But I've also found that leaning on those particular types, it's a weird kind of dynamic. It's like they feed off of the energy of you being the creator / producer. They don't really produce anything, but then they talk as if they do, but then you can't really. I mean, nobody knows what you're doing because you don't really promote yourself. You're not really a salesperson, but then they can at least advertise the situation to I wouldn't say the masses, but definitely to way more people than you could. Anyway, that's just a roundabout way of saying that. You need to find the right kind of an advertiser to surround yourself with, or whatever, or a crew of advertisers, let's say. And isn't this kind of where like club promoters, this is the direction they ended up taking? It was like whoever had the most Facebook friends was basically the best promoter, because they would just get their Facebook friends to show up to clubs and events and so on and so forth. Anyway, I'm getting tired here, and my brain is starting to freeze. I'm gonna pick this up, and I'm not deleting any of this. I'm not re-recording. I'm gonna keep going with this particular kind of stream of consciousness. And I also think this is the other thing too. I think this is another interesting side point. I think that I've talked about how there's so many people doing more or less the same kind of range of creative pursuits, and it's kind of like, it's like I said, like having a show before, and being very like professional-ish and whatever, and it's kind of like now just being like, you know what, I'm gonna clown and sort of, and then just come up with a different way of recording this stream of consciousness for however many minutes, pick it up later on. Because I think if you to keep up with the Joneses at this point in the stage of the maturity of the podcast culture and all that, I'm like, you know what? I'm never going to be one of these people. So one of these people with super well produced podcast, so I might as well just go all in on the way it sounds now. Make it sound, grimy and rugged or whatever, with feedback, and I can hear the hiss in the headphones. Anyway, good night, people. Peace. So, greetings. The end of that last little section there was, but I'm leaving it, like I said, because now we're awake and it's a new day. Actually, later last night, before I even recorded that segment, I was thinking about how, well, I guess actually right after I recorded that segment, I was thinking about sometimes you make clownish jokes about things and then, a more tragic thing happens in reality. I'm not gonna get too deep into it. So I do these little community, like whenever I have to go to a specific part of town and then I have to cut through certain neighborhoods, usually more hoodie environments, I'll just take a bunch of photos and then do a little community, because sometimes you get people from on IG who aren't from your city, so you kind of do a little photo exhibit of sorts about certain communities. Anyway, so I think I've also spoken about Ottawa South on this show. I think a couple episodes ago I was talking about what is Ottawa South from Wikipedia, and I was listing off all these neighborhoods. So, I'm sitting in the Tim Hortons late night, just using my tablet in the corner, doing some work. Then all of a sudden I'm like, what the hell's going on Twitter? And it's like, yeah, shooting at South Keys. I'm like, oh boy. Now, I guess what happened was there was a barbecue, which tends to happen in this, it's summer and all that. There's a barbecue, some argument breaks out, some young dude shoots another young dude dies, he shoots another girl, the girl dies. Or no, she gets taken to critical. And I was thinking, oh my God. First of all, I made this kind of dismissive joke when I was doing the IG community profile thing. I'm like, oh, because they have in that neighborhood, in the exact neighborhood where this happened, there's like an octagon of sorts in the back. It's like a fence octagon, and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if they had they charge admission and they have little hood octagon beef, you know what I mean? And flash forward a week, maybe not even a week, and then some bullshit goes down. And the other sad thing too, man, is that this might have been the first time that, well, let me say this. A lot of these shootings happen and I don't think much about the shooter themselves. I'm usually thinking about and then first of all these shootings are usually gang related and it's usually a targeted thing. This isn't a city where, well, random people get gunned down. Something actually happened a few days before this downtown. It's dark. It was involved a librarian. I almost don't want to get into that one. But for the most part in this city, there's no real targeted shootings. Not targeted. It's more targeted. There's no soccer moms getting, gunned down and so on. Usually. So when I was thinking when this thing happened last night, I was like, oh man, first of all, these kids, man, you make this one rash decision in the moment of arguments, which is really just an argument broke out. Now, I don't know the details and all that. I don't know what it was about, but an argument at a barbecue, you know what I mean? And then I guess they had to lock down the whole neighborhood. And then the dude barricaded himself inside one of the homes, and he was not trying to come out. And they eventually got him. But this is in the neighborhood close to where I grew up. I'm kind of like, man, you make this one fucking decision. We've all done this. You make it, maybe not to that level, but you make a decision. You know, maybe you have an emotional reaction in a moment, and you act on it, and then you're like, oh, I regret this. Now you have this scenario, dude. One person dead, one person in critical, one person probably gone for life. Even in Canada with some of the last laws, it's like murder, an attempted murder or whatever. So, I mean, it'll probably end up being second degree, but anyway. So there's that. And now the next thing was that, so I was cutting through a neighborhood to go somewhere. I was going from a point A to a point B. The point B, I did kind of I dragged out the route from the point A to the point B just to incorporate a certain neighborhood, a rooming house neighborhood, and then it's in the center of town, like Little Italy, Chinatown, center town, Ottawa. And I think I've discussed in many episodes in the past, like months ago, about this rooming house scenario, what it's like, and so on. So I'm walking by, and for some reason I was like overly amped up in the morning. That morning, this was yesterday morning. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go in, and I'm gonna walk by, and I'm gonna film and do a little kind of a vlog of sorts. Then, as I walk by the building, well, I lived in two of these places. I lived in one for like a month or so, and then I lived in another one for 5 or 6 months. The one I lived in 5 or 6 months, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just walk by, do a little vlog. I see the doors open. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go in. I go in. It's marginally better. I think they might have had some heat. I think this company that rents these rooming houses, I think they got some heat from the city or public health or something. Because there was like a sign up that says, yeah, what do you guys think about the experience in the rooming house? So we use Tim Hortons cards and so on. I'm just like, whatever. I take a picture of that too, or a video, and then I take a video of the various, I go upstairs to the floor I lived, and I'm like, it was almost a triggering scenario, but I'm like, I gotta get this for the sheer video, and maybe to bring some kind of quote unquote awareness. And so I did that, and then I walked, even for whatever reason, I was actually not going to walk down into the washroom, and I'm like, I got to take a video of this. Like, at this point, I have to go the full distance of what I can accomplish today. As far as, this is something I should have even done a couple years ago, but I didn't do it. And I'm like, I can do it now. So I go, take the video, the bathroom's grimy as hell. I'm like, oh my God. And then I bounce out, go downstairs, take some video of the second floor. It's the kind of place you gotta camp out overnight to really get the whole story. And it's one of those things that I could have done when I was living there, but I was so caught up in the moment of I need to get out that I wasn't thinking about any kind of like media projects involved in this place. Though that would have been interesting. And maybe, I don't know, go rent a room for one night. Because you can do that too. People, they operate in they do like a hotel in some cases too. They're like, yeah. I literally saw somebody move in one night and then move out the next. And then I'm like, okay, what is that about? Someone's like, yeah, you can move in here for one night. I don't think that what that guy was doing. I think he probably came in and then like he realized how shitty it was and then he's got out of the way straight away. Well, you can rent it. It was like some like micro Airbnb shit almost. Anyway, so yeah. So this building was it's like a rundown. It should be condemned. It's not. There was no fridge when I was there, living there. That was the main problem. Now they have like one isolated fridge, in the hallway. And I'm like, I didn't even look in. I'm like, I'm not looking at this. Didn't smell like, you could smell the stink of weed. Didn't look like anybody was really around. Somehow the door was open though. And so then I got out and I'm like, damn, man, like it almost had this. I went into Little Italy. There's like a little like memorial for soldiers stroll down there, sit down, record a longer video. Then yeah, that was that was the little rooming house expose. But the thing is this. I'm like, you know what? This is somewhat a bit of a, it triggered some memories, but let me tweet this out. Let me put some of this up on IG, and then I've done my little part here. Whether or not anything comes of it, because I actually have more video to upload. But sometimes these revisiting of, because like I said, like the whole being grateful thing, and I know it's positivity, optimism, and so on and so forth. It's easy to, well, I guess I'm now more positive and grateful than I've ever been in maybe a year or so. Maybe that's not true, but the point I'm making is it only takes those few memories to be sparked or whatever, or re-triggered, to make you be like, oh, things are great, things are really, really great. I'm here, I have the ability to record an infinite amount of audio and schedule it. And then I have, a pretty nice apartment, food in the fridge, shoes, various contract work. You got money in the bank. You got the ability to travel. At some point, you got tickets to see Saint Germain. You got, you got your memory. You got your mind. You got and I know it's corny, but it's like, these are the little things that make you think, oh, I hate to use this as an example, but I didn't get gunned down in a barbecue. You know what I mean? Or nor did I feel like I had to gun somebody down. It's like, like what can be so worth gunning somebody down at a barbecue for? At in your early 20s. And then the girl got gunned down too. It's like, fuck. Sorry to make this downer thing, but try and, it's always easier to be optimistic in the summer, depending on where you are. Like, I'm sure in Miami, people are off. Well, I shouldn't say that. People are getting gunned down in Miami a lot, too. I'm just saying, the good weather, it's easy for when you have, quote-unquote, seasonal affective disorder, like the masses supposedly have in Canada, to then be really optimistic in the summer because you're getting more vitamin D, which is all it is, really. But, try, if you can maintain that all the time and just look around and say, this is where the news, like trying to avoid the news all the time, might be ignorant, because when you read these headlines, you're thinking to yourself, Christ, man, life is good. Anyway, peace.